It was supposed to be an adrenaline-fueled adventure, one night of daring exploration at the infamous Ravenswood Asylum. Nestled on the outskirts of town, the dilapidated structure loomed like a grim sentinel of history. Its towering spires and shattered windows cast eerie shadows under the pale glow of the moon, and the air seemed to hum with a malevolent energy. For decades, tales of unspeakable horrors within its walls had circulated stories of inhumane experiments, ghostly sightings, and a tragic fire that sealed its dark fate. But for Sam, Rachel, Ethan, and Mia, those stories were nothing more than urban legends, and tonight they were determined to prove it. "Seriously, what's the worst that could happen?" Ethan asked, shining his flashlight at the rusted iron gates that groaned under the weight of time. His confident smirk faltered when Rachel shot him a warning look. "That right there," Rachel replied, crossing her arms. "You've just uttered the most cliched line in every horror movie. Do you really want to tempt fate?" Sam laughed, leaning on the crowbar he had brought along. "Relax, Rachel. It's just an abandoned building. We'll be in and out, snap a few pictures for Instagram, and call it a night. What's there to be scared of?" Mia, however, hesitated, her eyes fixed on the asylum's dark silhouette. "It's not about being scared," she murmured. "It's about respect. Places like this, they remember things, bad things. That's the point, isn't it?" Ethan grinned, giving her a playful nudge. "We're here to make some memories of our own." With a shriek of protesting metal, Sam pried open the gates, and the group stepped onto the overgrown path, leading to the asylum's main entrance. The air was thick with the smell of decay, and the faint rustling of leaves added an unsettling undercurrent to the oppressive silence. The oak doors stood slightly ajar, an unspoken invitation into the unknown. Inside, the asylum's decrepit interior was a labyrinth of peeling paint, broken furniture, and shattered glass. Graffiti covered the walls, some of it playful, but most of it chilling. "Get out! Don't look back!" And they never left. The group's footsteps echoed ominously in the cavernous halls, the sound swallowed by the eerie stillness. "This is where they kept the patients," Rachel said, reading a faded sign pointing toward the wards. Her voice seemed unusually loud in the silence. "Do you think any of them, still linger here?" "Ghosts?" Ethan scoffed, though he couldn't quite mask the nervous edge in his tone. "Come on, Rachel. You don't really believe in that stuff, do you?" Mia's voice was quiet but firm. "Places hold energy, and this one feels heavy." Sam shrugged off the tension, leading them deeper into the building. "You guys are overthinking this. Let's find the operating theater. That's where the real history is." Room after room told a grim story. Rusted bed frames, overturned wheelchairs, and dusty medical instruments painted a haunting picture of the asylum's past. But it was the fresh footprints in the dust that stopped them in their tracks. "Wait," Rachel whispered, her voice trembling. "Are we sure we're the only ones here?" Ethan tried to sound nonchalant. "Probably just other explorers. Or squatters. Nothing to worry about." Before anyone could respond, a distant creak echoed through the halls, the unmistakable sound of a door opening. "What was that?" Sam spun around, his flashlight darting across the empty corridor. The beam caught nothing but dust particles hanging in the air. "It's probably just the wind," Ethan offered, though his knuckles whitened around his flashlight. "In here is no wind in here," Rachel countered. Despite their unease, they pressed on, eventually finding themselves in the operating theater. The circular room was dominated by a rusted operating table, with rows of decaying seats rising around it like a macabre amphitheater. Moonlight streamed through a massive skylight, illuminating dark stains that marred the floor. "This is it," Rachel whispered. "This is where they did the experiments." Mia shivered. "I don't like this. Let's go." Sam's curiosity outweighed his fear. He approached the table, running his fingers over its cold surface. "This is history," he said, his voice tinged with awe. Before Mia could protest, the skylight shattered without warning, sending shards of glass raining down. The group screamed, diving for cover as the cacophony echoed through the asylum. When the dust settled, they looked up and froze. A shadowy figure stood in the rafters, its hollow eyes boring into them. "Who's there?" Ethan shouted, his voice cracking. The figure didn't respond. It stepped forward, revealing a contorted face filled with anguish. And then, as suddenly as it had appeared, it vanished into the darkness. "We need to leave. Now," Rachel said, grabbing Mia's arm. Agreed, Sam said, though his bravado was gone. But the asylum wasn't done with them. As they retraced their steps, the hallways seemed to shift, leading them deeper into the building instead of toward the exit. The graffiti on the walls changed, the warnings becoming more sinister. It's behind you. No escape. Ethan stopped abruptly. Do you hear that? The others strained to listen. Faint whispers seemed to echo from the shadows, growing louder, closer. Run! Sam shouted, and they bolted. Their frantic escape led them to a spiraling staircase, descending into the bowels of the asylum. With no other choice, they plunged into the darkness, the air growing colder with each step. At the bottom, they found a heavy metal door, slightly ajar. Beyond it was a nightmarish scene. Shelves lined the walls, holding jars filled with murky liquid and grotesque specimens. Chains hung from the ceiling, some still bearing tattered restraints. In the center of the room was a large, rusted chair surrounded by archaic medical equipment. What is this place? Rachel whispered, her voice shaking. The lab, Sam replied grimly, where they did the experiments. Before they could react, the door slammed shut behind them. The whispers returned, now a deafening cacophony of screams and laughter. The lights flickered, plunging the room into darkness. Stay together, Mia shouted, reaching for the others. But when the lights came back on, Ethan was gone. Ethan? Rachel called, panic rising in her voice. Ethan, where are you? A guttural laugh echoed through the room, sending chills down their spines. The remaining three huddled together, their fear palpable. We have to find him, Sam said, though his legs felt like jelly. As they moved deeper into the asylum, the building seemed alive. Doors slammed, walls groaned, and the air pulsed with malevolence. They found Ethan in a padded cell, his flashlight flickering weakly in his hand. Ethan! Rachel cried, rushing to him. He looked up, his eyes wide with terror. It won't let us leave, he whispered. It's not over.